Hi, I'm Unbound Sage. Today I'd like to talk about the Normalized Draft mock-up here. So we know that Normalized Draft is going to be a PvP mode eventually in the build, and as with all things, I like to give my input, and so today I'd like to give an input of what I think this could look like. I think this is really spawned in from the podcast. Remember, I'm not a game designer. I'm just one of the content creators here. The people working on the game are, I'm sure they thought of something like this, but I figure I'd just throw my hat in the ring and give a mock-up for it. So let's go ahead and get started here. So what I imagine is there is going to be these pairings of champions and passives, because remember, we don't have time to gear everyone. This is normalized, right? So I imagine they have their base gear. I imagine that, or their base stats rather. And I imagine that they are maybe even Awaken 5, Awaken 3. Maybe that's something they can do in the future, where it's like, okay, yeah, the first season, they're all gonna be Awaken 0, and then next season it's maxed Awakened, right, and whatever. And then they're also paired with some kind of stat increase, right? And, you're gonna draft 8 of these. And the reason why you're gonna draft 8 of these is to make a character, right here, this is the example I have here. I drafted maybe Brynhild with initiative up. I drafted Isolde with defense up, and then I pieced together. So basically, every champion has a base champion who's actually being in it, 2 passives that are just like stat increases or similar things, and then an Isolde imprint, right, or the imprint, right. So I do have a kind of a mock draft available, so we can kind of see the depth this brings, right? So it is kind of small here, and I am covering up Izanami as well, but you gotta get a vibe of what this is, right? So I imagine there'll be some selection of legendaries, some selections of epic, some selections of rares, and then I imagine that they are paired with a passive, right, that you're gonna be able to equip to your heroes. And this is a draft. I imagine this would be a real-time draft, right? So you and your opponent, you have kind of a minute. The first player, right, kind of has a minute to select this and notice some things. So let's go ahead and look at this too. So I notice here we have Odin with Geary. This is obviously a very strong comp, especially with the bleed on hit. Geary's gonna be taking multiple turns. That's spooky. Some other things I noticed is there is a Shishi with a Solde, with Brynhild, with and the Shishi has team attack, so we have to look at the Tien, which is Nessa and Sun Shu. So I kind of see there's this nice defender kind of thing going on. We do have the HP up on Neza, so if we can get Shishi, Isolde, Neza, right, that's pretty strong, especially if we can grab Brynhild as well. And so kind of looking at this too, another thing as well is these passes will be stronger based on the rarity that they are. So I imagine that legendaries will have rare level passives. So I should do this one, rare level passives, and then this will have epics will have epic level passives, and then rares will have legendary level passives, right, to kind of balance everything out. And these stats here, remember, if you're going to start with your base stats, right? So accuracy is usually lower than resistance. So if you want to use Odin's CC, which would be really good, you're going to need this accuracy up, right? So that makes this kind of a priority. So let's say here that, I'm kind of evaluating all of these guys, and obviously we don't know all these people. Like I said, I kind of see Shishi, Neza, Sun Shu, and Chunyi. And so now the game starts, right? And I go first. And how it'll go, I imagine it'll be how most draft kind of stuff goes at League of Legends kind of level, where I pick 1, then my opponent picks 2, then I pick 2, then my opponent picks 2, then I pick 2, then my opponent picks 2, then I pick 1. I think that'll be right until we have 8. So then I'm I see this combo here. This combo is way too strong to leave on the board. So I first pick Odin, right? With Odin also being a decent threat as well. Threatening the accuracy up, threatening the Geary. So my opponent, he picks or winning Geary. He's like, yeah, I don't want you to have accuracy up, and I don't want you to have to Geary as well. And I say, okay, yeah, I kind of see this angle you're going with here. I'm gonna grab a Sole Shishi, right? And then he says, okay, yeah, and then he, you know, he does his picks. Maybe he sees the accuracy up with Medusa and says, hey, yeah, Medusa has a Petrify, right? So we'll do this, and then Medusa is already a Slayer with a crit up with her. So this is actually a pretty high value card. Maybe I missed it in the draft. I was so worried about the team attack angle that I missed this. And I say, okay, yeah, well, I'm doing team attacks. I'm gonna grab Brynhild and Shamash, right? Or maybe I'll leave Shamash up because he doesn't. Maybe Shamash is pretty low value to him right now. You're just kind of looking around because I want Shamash, right? And so I say, okay, yeah, I'm gonna grab Brynhild, like Neza for the attack up. I already have Assault, right? So the HP up is valuable. And then he says, okay, yeah, he values Izanami maybe for a support ability that she has, and he's gonna grab Beowulf for the CC up, right? Which, you know, his Medusa is actually terrifying now. So I say, okay, I'm gonna grab Sun Shu with the resistance up and maybe this defense up person, and then he grabs the speed up, right? Obviously speed up would be more valuable in this draft, but you know, who knows? I'm just, you know, this is a quick mock-up, right? I know there's only 15 here, so, you know, sorry, right? But so you do your draft here. Yeah, I imagine this takes about like 3 to 5 minutes to do the draft, right? And then, you know, here's the cards I got, right? So I was kind of talking you through how this draft could play out. And so now it's time to decide who's a champion, who's an imprint, and what champion's getting what passives. And then I kind of land on this team, right? Which is going to be like a Shishi blender type team. You know, I understand that he does have a very scary, like, Medusa, but I think that we'll just, you know, eat the CC, maybe keep Neza not tanking the CC. And, you know, I also noticed that, you know, Shamash imprint is kind of valuable here because, you know, we are doing a blender comp, so that this is actually going to have some impact here. So I give him the initiative up, and, you know, you guys see that, like, Brynhild's gonna be our damage dealer because, you know, she's, you know, she brings in defenders too. So when she does his attack, he's bringing in the entire team. He's basically being Shamash right now, right? He's with the Assault imprint and then the really tanky legendary defense up. Maybe this is like 100% more defense and like 75% more HP. These are numbers that can be played with, right? And this doesn't have to be straight stats, right? So we have like the Shrine set giving a self heal to Sun Tzu, you know, but you kind of, you know, you kind of get to build these cards kind of how you want to, right? And obviously maybe, you know, this resistance up is kind of weird on Neza, but I valued it over the self heal. Maybe these should be switched, right? You know, we don't know their kits, right? So like, yeah, this is a lot of just like playing around and kind of, you know, showing what it could be. And then this way too, you know, it's like, well, what are the rewards, right? Like what should this be? Should this be, you know, what should this look like? I think in value of kind of having the spirit of all the games made for all players, I think that this should have the same reward structure as Arena. And what I mean by that is these don't have different rewards from regular Arena at all. It has a different leaderboard. Maybe we compete for cosmetics. So the top of the asynchronous Arena, right? The standard, I pick a defense and I attack it. Maybe the top of that, or the top tier, gets a, you know, gets an icon or gets a like you know, season 1 champion or season 1 challenger status, right? And then, you know, the top of this one maybe has like normalized champion, right? And so, but I think like the actual stuff along the way is like if you get like, say, shards or imprints or, you know, currency of some kind, I think that those you shouldn't be able to double dip, right? So if you get to platinum 1 into challenger rating or whatever, however they're going to do that, right? The top rating of normalized, there is, you know, not really a reason to do regular PvP. And likewise, if you get all the way up in regular PvP, if you do normalized, it's you know, you can't get the rewards twice, right? And that might seem weird, but at the same time, you can just play this for fun too, or just play for the top spot and, you know, get an icon, right? I think that their unique rewards from regular Arena should just be cosmetic. because that's really in line with all players are taken care of, right? So hey, people that want to have these, these big constructed teams and pay a lot of money for it, they get to play with people who have big constructed teams. And maybe you could make a live arena, right? And that's a big thing. Maybe that's where these two kind of compete, where you have a live arena that has your constructed team, and then you have normalized PvP that's also live due to the nature of it. And they use different leaderboards, but the reward pool is the same, right? So you know what I'm saying? So there's not a reason to do everything. The game's not asking you to do everything. You kind of get to pick how you get those arena rewards. And I think that's a big deal, right? Because we kind of talked about, we want every player to feel like they're doing well. And obviously, if there's rewards on the table that I can't earn because I don't spend enough money in the game, right? I plan to spend like $100 a month max on the game. I don't have a lot of money right now, so I can't compete with the big guys who are dropping thousands. I just can't. But this normalized mode says, hey, yeah, normalized mode is fun. I'm good at it, right? I really can see these like unique combos on like non-meta champions. I can see these lines of like, the Shishi builds, right? Even this has like no legendaries in it, right? So like, yeah, I saw like the no legendary line that was really strong. And so I don't think my opponent who has studied the meta and has gotten the champions to win the meta should get less rewards than me, who understands niche strategies better but never bothered to learn the actual PvP meta, right? And then obviously too, at the end, how to shake this up. I think that these cards just choose different passives, right? Maybe we have a season where there's a card that's like Wisdom Slayer, and it gives you 100% crit rate and double damage against wisdom units, right? And maybe that's a season where each of the affinities has like a slayer that goes along with it. So it's like, you really have to know your affinities, right? So we know, Sun Shu is cunning. So if my opponent had a cunning slayer and reads that I'm using Sun Shu, or sees a Salde, Salde's cunning, and I don't remember. I think Odin's eternal, but like, if you can see your opponent drafting a lot of the same attribute, maybe that's something you can grab as well. And then, these don't have to be so one-dimensional. Maybe this can be like tank stats up, right? Or whatever. So that's it. That's kind of my mock-up here. And, guys, I appreciate you guys watching the video. Make sure you comment what you think down below, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Take care.